Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing good. The week seemed to go by pretty quick. How's everything on your end?
Pretty good. Yeah, it's been a busy week. Beautiful weather in Philly. About 70 degrees today. It was nice being out there. Thinking about Sixers basketball as we walk around. It's getting close to playoff time. We're 26 games from the playoffs. It's going to go quick. We've got a couple of weeks left. You know, they squeeze these games in towards the end.
Yeah, it doesn't look like the Sixers have the toughest schedule coming up. And I just want to thank everyone for tuning in and remind you that you are listening to Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And I think you told me a little bit ago you have the schedule up for the remaining games for the Philadelphia 76ers.
I do. We have 26 games left. And as I mentioned, I think tonight may be their toughest game left. It's a road game in Denver, 9 o'clock. After that, it gets a lot easier. You have, I'll go over the next 5-6 games. They're going to play Cleveland on their way home. They're going to stop in Cleveland Thursday night. Hopefully,
that's a double revenge right there.
Yeah, that team's been a thorn in their side this year. But I'm hoping, that they can put them their struggles behind them. They should come up with a victory there. And then they come home and play a struggling Minnesota Timberwolves team, followed by the Memphis Grizzlies. Then they'll shoot up to Boston for one, 7:30 game on Tuesday. And then they'll come right back home for New Orleans. So, I mean, that's 5 games right there where 4-1 will be the absolute worst, I believe, they'll come out.
Yeah, that one loss is probably going to be tonight.
No, I meant the 4-1 after tonight. I'm chalking tonight up as a loss. I think it's going to be a tough game out west, coming off two LA games. You're still shorthanded. Everybody, expects the Sixers without Embiid to come out victorious. It's going to be tough. They've been winning these games with defense. They held Golden State to 98 points. They held the Lakers to 101. They held the Knicks to 100. They held the Kings to 105. They're winning it on the defensive end. They're keeping these games low, and Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons are carrying them.
Yeah, Danny Green has been hitting his threes a little better now than when he started the season. I think he's up shooting either 40% from three or better right now. So that's been a major bonus.
Yeah, he's been amazing. Anytime you can get 28 points from Danny Green, that's about 20-point bonus right there. Yeah, he's been on. He's been on.
Yeah, and in that Lakers game, I mean, he just came from the Lakers. Don't they know all he does is shoot threes?
I know.
But, hey, you got to take a win.
LeBron wasn't there to tell them. Dennis Schroeder wasn't exactly the same type of perimeter defender as LeBron is.
Yeah.
So if...
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen tonight's game against Denver be one where Embiid was playing, but unfortunately he's not. And Denver did beat the Sixers in Philadelphia earlier this year, but it was the same situation. Embiid didn't play that game as well.
Neither did Simmons. They were both out. That was a COVID game. Sixers had 7 players healthy for that game.
Oh, that's right. That was that game. Yeah. And the league made them play with 7.
They made them play with 7 players because they said Mike Scott was the 8th, and Mike Scott wasn't even available.
I remember that now.
So
right.
That game had another significance also. That game basically showed the Sixers management that Tyrese Maxey could score 39 points in a game, and made them shy about trading him to Houston for James Harden.
Well, and he did play well then. It just seems like right now Tyrese Maxey, it's interesting you bring him up. It seems like in the mix he's kind of being left out a little bit, and I don't know if that's by design or not. And I think that's going to be a situation where you probably won't see much of him in the playoff.
No, I don't think Doc Rivers is going to trust him at all.
No, and what we were talking about earlier today was interesting too with the trade that they made by bringing in George Hill. It's interesting because you would think George Hill is going to take minutes from Shake Milton.
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, we talked earlier. We pretty much think that they brought him in as a veteran presence in the playoffs to handle the ball as as the sixth man or seventh man off the bench, and pretty much take Shake Milton's minutes. I don't know. Shake Milton didn't play horrible in the playoffs last year. It's just he was thrown into a role that was too much asked of him. He wasn't. He was a rookie, and Ben Simmons went down last minute. He wasn't used to starting. He was used to coming off the bench. I think if you give Shake Milton 15 minutes a game in the playoffs, you can get by.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. And I guess the thing is too, we'll find out how well Doc Rivers. I mean, we've been talking a lot about how well he's coached this year, but once it hits the playoffs, that's a different animal. So we'll find out then if he's coaching more like Larry Brown or Brett Brown.
Hopefully, it's not Brett Brown.
Yeah, hopefully not. And the other thing too is I think when even though George Hill is only shooting 80% from the foul line, that's better than Simmons. So having the ball in his hands late in the game in a situation where the other team needs the foul may be a better person to go to the foul line than Ben Simmons.
Right, you're going to have an 80% foul. Even though Simmons has improved his foul shooting,
he has.
You're going to have a veteran shoot to 80%. I hope this doesn't come back to bite us and George Hill misses an important foul shot. But yeah, that's I guess what they're thinking as well. They got a better foul shooter, a ball handler, a veteran.
Well, and that's one of those things too. As being a lifelong basketball fan, I mean, it's foul shooting can kill you. Just look at Alabama over the weekend.
Yeah, Alabama killed our hopes of a winning bracket. The Philly Sports Talk bracket was kicking butt down the stretch. We were in 615th place out of 14 million brackets entered.
And 11 seed took them out.
Yeah. And Oregon losing to USC. USC is a much better team than I anticipated.
Yes, yeah. I know. We thought Oregon could come up and bite Gonzaga as well, but maybe it's going to.
Now I'm thinking USC might give them a game.
Yeah, exactly.
So there was the Sixers. I left off, I believe, April 9th against the Pelicans, and then they go to the Thunder and the Mavericks. And then after that, the big game, they come home to play Brooklyn, April 14th, the Wells Fargo Center.
I mean, that's one game definitely to circle and to keep an eye on. Hopefully, it'll be a game where the Sixers have their full roster available and nobody's injured. I'd also like to see Brooklyn have their three main players as well. But the way things have been going this year, it probably won't pan out that way.
It could. And from what I'm reading, Durant could be back April 7th. And Embiid could be back this weekend. So.
Well, and I think too, if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong here, but Brooklyn beat the Sixers in Brooklyn earlier this year, and Brooklyn was really shorthanded that game.
Yeah, that's before they got Harden.
Yeah, that was one of the worst losses for the Sixers this year, but those games happen.
The Sixers always seem to struggle in Brooklyn for some reason.
That's why getting that number one seed and making sure if there is a playoff series where there's a game 7, it's in the Wells Fargo Center and it's not in the Barclays Center. If those two beat up.
I've heard over the years a lot that the teams struggle in New York and they struggle in Miami.
Makes sense.
Makes sense. Yeah, there's a lot of partying going on in both of those cities.
So. Well, hopefully that's one of those situations where even if the Sixers do have to play a game 7 on the road, they would have their minds set right, and maybe with the coach, with Doc Rivers, it'll be a different story. But hopefully, I guess when you look at it, I mean, maybe we're jumping the gun that we're thinking it's going to be the Sixers and the Nets in the Eastern Conference Finals. Right now, it seems like a sure bet, but anything can happen.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on the seeding. I mean, if one of them drops and Milwaukee takes the 2. It could end up the Sixers play just one of the 2, which, if you come number 1, you're going to play the winner of the 4 or 5.
Yeah, and just from recent history, I don't know if I'd like to see the Sixers play Boston in the playoffs this year or not. Boston's knocked the Sixers out a few times here recently, but I'd like to see the Sixers play them to get the revenge and knock them out, but I won't want it to be a situation where they get pushed and possibly lose the series or get pushed to a 7th game and that carries over.
Right, exactly. And if the playoffs started today, I mean, Boston is in the 7th spot, so they have that. Right. They have the 7-10 little mini tournament there. So it's 10. The 7's Boston, 8 is Miami, 9 is Indiana, and 10 is the Bulls. And the Bulls made a couple moves. They picked up Nick Vucevic from Orlando. That's a nice little pickup for them.
Yeah, him playing with Levine.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, it's not Simmons and Embiid, and it's not Harden and KD. But hey, for Chicago, what they did by making that trade has definitely done something to improve their team. And hey, once the playoffs come around, you never know.
Yeah, I think in the future they're going to be a tough team. If they pick up a point guard and the free agency this year, and they have the money, they're way under the salary cap. They also picked up Daniel Tice too from Boston, another guy that gives the Sixers headaches. See, Boston tried to make a move for Vucevic as well. They didn't.
Just they just didn't have as much as they could give up as the Bulls.
No. They picked up Evan Fournier, who went 0 for 10 last night in his debut for Celtics.
That's hard to do.
Yeah, with a grand total of 0.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, hopefully when George Hill plays, he doesn't put up numbers like that in his Sixers debut.
If he plays.
That's true. He's out. I think if anyone's following, you would know he's out getting surgery. I guess it's surgery on his thumb.
On his thumb, yeah.
Yeah, the Sixers like to add pieces of to their team that are injured.
I know.
That seems to be a Philadelphia thing. Like the Phillies will trade for a guy. Well, he's coming off arm surgery, and we'll see what he can do. And
yep. Speaking of the Phillies, we're going to get into the Phillies later on. We're going to have a full 40-man roster rundown as the 40-man roster has been announced.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And if we have time in this show tonight, we're going to add a little extra segment to our shows each week. It's going to be called the Philadelphia Sports Memory. And what we'll do each week is either one of us will pick a memory from the past, of course, and then we'll just have a little discussion about it. Maybe it'll be something that bring up some memories to some people who are listening to us. And it doesn't have to be a positive memory. Though if we get to it tonight, the one I'm going to pick is a positive memory.
Yeah, that really narrows it down.
Sure. Right. well, when we sit here and think back on our lives and our history of Philadelphia sports, there's more negative memories that come to mind than positive.
Yeah, that's why they call us Negadelphia.
Well, unfortunately, that is what Philadelphia gets called. But then again, if the teams would win more, that might go away.
Yeah, and I mean we tend to get we overhype our big seasons, and like this year with the Sixers, and it's like a cautious optimism. And there's always has to be a team like the Nets there, always has to be that one team that it's like the nemesis, the great team.
Well, and even when you go back to last year, it was one of those situations to where they're playing in the bubble. They didn't play. They played pretty well before the playoffs. I mean, once they started in the bubble, they lost that first game to Indiana, which I was a little bit shocked to see them lose that game.
Wasn't that the T.J. Warren 50-point night?
Yes, that's the one. and what I'm getting at is it's just one of those things to where then Ben Simmons has to miss the playoffs, and of course the Sixers didn't even get a victory in the playoffs.
I remember that night. That was we were talking on Twitter. For those of you guys out there, Chris and I actually were two of the most vocal Phillies Twitter account guys. That's how we met on Twitter. We a lot of times the 7th, 8th, 9th inning, you go on Phillies Twitter, you'll see us being negative as usual.
Well, after the last, I would say the last 3 seasons, the 2 with Gabe Kapler and then the one last year with the bullpen, we had every reason to be negative.
Yeah, we loved our Adam Morgan. We finally got rid of him though. Adam Morgan's finally not on the Phillies.
And Tommy Hunter's not on the Phillies either.
Tommy Hunter just got released by the Mets. In breaking news.
Don't say maybe the Phillies could use it.
No. So.
Yeah, well, like you said with that that Sixers schedule, going back to wrap that up, it looks like it's going to be one that's definitely in the favor of the Sixers. And of course, they're going to have a couple games in there where you would definitely think that they should win, where they're going to be the favorite, where they end up losing those games. But that happens to every team, just like we said earlier. They lost twice to the Cavaliers this year. I mean, the one game was on a back-to-back game early in the season that they lost to the Cavaliers. And the second game, it was a home game, and it was just one of those games to where the Sixers just didn't play well.
And Cleveland did. Cleveland hit all their shots. Colin Sexton played great that night. They were hitting their threes. The game went to overtime. The Sixers just didn't have it. It's the NBA. You're not going to have it every night. It's like you just said. But I'm looking at 26 games left. 20? What do you think? 20 games? 20 and 6?
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that the Sixers can do. They'll probably end up winning 18, 19 of those games, and hopefully going through that stretch of games there. Hopefully they're able to play well in some of the back-to-back games, which has given them some struggles, and hopefully everybody stays healthy.
Yeah, and if you look right now, they're half a game ahead of Brooklyn. Brooklyn's 32-15. The Sixers are 32-14. So after tonight, we're thinking it's going to be tied. They'll both have 25 games left, one game head-to-head. You know, the Nets seem to sit their stars more than the Sixers do.
Yeah, it seems that way. I don't know enough about Brooklyn. I don't know about what the fan base thinks about how they play on the road. But with it being the three big players that they have now, there's not really a sample size to tell how well they play on the road. We just know with the Sixers, any game 7 needs to be in the Wells Fargo Center.
Sixers are only 13-10 on the road this year.
Yeah, and last year they were absolutely horrible on the road.
Below 500.
Well below.
Yeah, it was terrible for a team that had championship aspirations. They couldn't win a road game.
Yeah, and Ben Simmons wasn't hurt then, so it just seemed like they wasn't. It was two different teams.
Yeah. The Eastern Conference is just upside down this year. They got Charlotte's in the 4th spot. The Knicks are in the 5. That would be your first-round matchup, Charlotte and the Knicks. So if you could get the 1 seed, that would be your second-round opponent.
Yeah, both teams that, the Knicks they played the Sixers well this year, but the Knicks haven't beaten the Sixers in forever.
No, Ben Simmons has never lost to the Knicks in his career.
It's amazing.
16-0.
Yeah, and when you look at the Charlotte team, I mean, the Sixers handled them pretty well this year, but
they're young. They're young.
I'm trying to remember. I don't know if the Sixers did they play them in Charlotte this year? Because I know they beat them twice at home.
Yeah, they beat them there also. Yeah.
They beat them there also. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, and when you look at the history between the Hornets and the Sixers, a lot of that was the point guard who would just score at will. It seemed like against the Sixers, but he's in Boston now. Kemba Walker.
Oh, Kemba, yeah. I thought you were talking about Terry Rozier for a second, because he's there too.
No, I just have flashbacks to that one game where Walker he dropped. I guess it was 60 or 60 plus. This is going back, I think, 2 years. Yeah. And the Sixers beat them in overtime on a buzzer beater from Jimmy Butler.
Yep. Oh, Jimmy Butler. How I wish we had Jimmy Butler. So I mean, that would be an easy path to the Eastern Conference Finals.
It should be.
If you get that the Knicks or the Hornets in the second round. Your first round matchup could potentially be tougher than your second round if you have the Celtics or the Heat.
It definitely would play out that way.
I mean, it's a log jam right there. They're all within a game of each other. The Hornets are the 4. The Heat are the 8. They're a game ahead of them. So and the other teams are within a half. The Hawks are there also at the 6.
Yeah, the Hawks are another one of those teams where the Sixers always seem to struggle against them, especially in Atlanta.
Trae Young. Trae Young's a tough guard. They struggle against point guards that can shoot.
Yeah.
Same with Colin
Sexton. I was looking at, somehow I was thinking about Atlanta earlier today, and I looked to see, I think they're playing the Suns tonight. That should be an interesting game.
Atlanta?
Yes.
Yeah, this should be a high-scoring game. Got Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton. He's an underrated center. He's a double machine out there in Phoenix. They've been a good team, Phoenix. They're in the 2 spot in the West.
Yeah, they're not a bad team.
No, not at all. I mean, they're not. I don't think they're ready to win a title, but
The addition of Chris Paul didn't hurt them at all.
no. They're 31-14, 3.5. They're the 2 seed in the West.
Well, if it was a series between them and the Jazz, I'd take Phoenix all day.
I mean, Utah has bombers. They've struggled lately. They started out a lot hotter. They had their woes. They're only 15-9 on the road. They play great at home. They're 20-2 at home. Utah.
Wow. Yeah.
I just, like you said, I don't see them beating the Clippers or the Lakers.
No. If both those teams are healthy, I don't see the one of those teams beating them either. Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit earlier before we came on about who we thought would win the NBA championship this year, and I know you thought that it would be Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm. If healthy, of course.
Correct. If I was putting money on the team, I'd put it on the Clippers.
I mean, I don't like that they lost Lou Williams. I don't understand why they traded Lou Williams.
I don't
either. They don't have Montrezl Harrell. He's on the Lakers now. They still have 2 great players in Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, but the supporting cast, Marcus Morris. Now they have Rajon Rondo. They just Tyronn Lue's the coach.
Well, this year, this is Kawhi's last year with them on his contract, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so
knowing him, will test the market.
I just had flashbacks of when he was in Toronto, what he did to the Sixers, and I don't know. And being on that last year, maybe he'd want to do something or I don't want to say step up his game because he's one of the top 5 players in the league.
Yeah.
But being on that last year, maybe things would fall to bring a championship out there. I mean, that's why I would pick, of course, my heart to the Sixers, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, Kawhi's the type of player who could take over a game, but he's passive at times. Seems like he goes 5-10 minutes where he doesn't assert himself.
He does give a great post game interview.
Yeah, real exciting interview.
Hey, but all that matters is that you win.
Yep. Well, Elite 8, we have halftime in Indianapolis. Gonzaga 49, USC 30.
Wow.
So it looks like the Bulldogs will be going to the Final Four and keep proving me wrong. They'll be 30-0.
Yeah, we had talked about the fact that Gonzaga's schedule is not as tough as some of these other teams, which is one of the reasons why they ended up being undefeated. Which being undefeated is an outstanding achievement.
Sure.
No matter who does it, but just those list of teams. I mean, there wasn't too many teams that Gonzaga was facing in their conference that you saw also in the NCAA tournament.
Right. They're going to play St. Mary's, a San Francisco, a Loyola Marymount, did I say St. BYU's a tough team. They gave them they were actually ahead of them at halftime in the WCC tournament towards the end. But Gonzaga smoked them in the second half. They play Portland, a Pepperdine, a Santa Clara. So they're going to pick up 14, 15, 16 wins right in their own conference.
Yeah, it seems like some nights you look up and Gonzaga's beaten by 40, like Little Sisters of the Mercy University or something like that.
And if they're in the ACC, that's not happening.
Correct. It's not happening. It's not happening in the Pac-12 either.
No, they're gonna lose a game to UCLA. Don't sleep on Pepperdine. I'm seeing here on the message board. The Waves, the Green Waves or the Waves, Pepperdine.
Yeah, I think the Green Wave's Tulane, right?
Yeah, the Green Waves Tulane. I'm pretty sure Pepperdine's the Waves out west.
Yeah.
All right, we're about halfway through. I'm going to take a break, and we'll come back.
We got that Phillies season starting on Thursday, so we'll go in depth onto the Phillies when we come back from this break. and you are listening to Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey, what's up, sports fans? You're looking for a different type of sports talk show?
Then obviously I don't.
You gotta check out the BS3 Sports Show every other Saturday on 2 Live Stews Radio, 1 p.m. Central Time.
I couldn't hear the opening song either.
Eastern. Sports talk at its finest. Always have great guests, playing some good hip hop. You don't want to miss it. Make sure to tune in to the BS3 Sports Show every other Saturday at 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern.
What's up, everybody? This is Darren Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of spikes? Then I have the show for you. Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey USRN fans, do you have a product or company you're trying to promote? Look no further. USRN is teaming up with small local businesses trying to establish themselves via online promotion. Let us know if you're interested. Email us at usrnradio@gmail.com to learn more.
Welcome in to the Neutral Zone. I'm your host, Robert Kavanaugh, and you're listening to IE Sports Radio. If you like big, nasty hits, if you like slap chop straight to the neck, if you like it when the gloves hit the ice and the big boys get down, then this is your show. On IE Sports Radio, this is the Neutral Zone. May our shots on goal always be true and straight to the net. If they are not, may they be followed up, redirected, or change collected. Let's go on IE Sports Radio with me, your host, Robert Kavanaugh, and this is the Neutral Zone.
And welcome back, everyone, to Philly Sports Talk on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We talked basketball in the first half hour. Next half hour, we're going to give you your Flyers Minute and do a Phillies preview for the 2021 season.
And we'll touch a little bit on the Eagles and the move that the Eagles have made here recently with the draft looming in a few weeks.
So, do you want to give us our Flyers Minute, Chris?
Yeah, I can go through the Flyers Minute here real quick. The big news coming out of the Flyers is the fact that they have waived defenseman Shane Gostisbehere, something that I think a lot of Flyers fans are either surprised by or a little upset by, but I don't think it makes a difference one way or the other. The way this team's been playing this year, just waiving one defenseman probably isn't enough, but you just can't get rid of everybody. So, and to sum up the Flyers, as we've said all along, they're not a playoff team. There's your Flyers minute.
And I also know that the Ghost wasn't a coach's favorite either. I think Alain Vigneault wanted him gone.
Yeah, he has a few players on that team that he's not really happy with, and he was number one on the list. And some of the other guys you really can't get rid of, like Voracek. But yep, not a fan of. The coach was not a fan of the Ghost, so he's gone.
And that'll wrap up the Flyers Minute here on Philly Sports Talk. All right, let's go. Do you want to do the Eagles or the Phillies? Want to go?
Yeah, let's touch on the Phillies, who start on Thursday. That's an afternoon game, correct?
It's a afternoon game against the Atlanta Braves, a usual opening opponent. It's either usually the Reds or the Braves, it seems like, every year.
Yeah, or sometimes it's Miami. I think they opened with Miami last year, but the year before that, they opened up with Atlanta, and that's when it looked like, oh my goodness, this is going to be something. They got Bryce Harper, Reese Hoskins was played well in that series. They swept Atlanta to start the season. It was like, yeah, this is going to be a good team, and ended up not being a good team
because of the bullpen. Yeah, that's going to be a 3:05 game Thursday. The weather's supposed to be bad too. It's supposed to be cold, possible rain. Not a perfect day for a home opener. Today would have been a nice day for a baseball game.
Yeah, baseball and cold weather don't go together.
No. So it's probably going to be a low-scoring affair.
Yeah, and if we look right now, what I think is the roster of the Phillies, when you look at who the starting pitching is going to be, I guess we'll go through the starting pitchers right now. I mean, Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler. Then you have Eflin. And I guess they're going to go with Moore and then Anderson. Chase Anderson will be the fifth starter.
Matt Moore and Chase Anderson. Matt Moore has been around the world, literally. He's been from everywhere, from Tampa Bay to the Giants to Japan. He's coming back from his last professional team he pitched for was in Japan.
Yeah, I think he played in that New Zealand league also. No, it's just a joke.
So,
he's the definition of a journeyman.
Yeah, I don't get it. You couldn't get a better pitcher than Matt Moore. You had Corey Kluber out there who was just sitting on the market. The Yankees snatched him up last second. I mean, Matt Moore's a journeyman at best. He's been in the league for 8 years. Yeah, I think 8 years, 9 years. He's 30 years old. He's pitched for Tampa Bay, San Francisco, Texas, Detroit. His last 2 years in the majors, he had a 5.52 ERA and a 6.79 ERA.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean,
he fits right in with this team then. But they might as well put him in the bullpen.
we laugh, but I'd rather have Spencer Howard in that spot than the 4 spot than Matt Moore.
Well, it was one of those situations, too, when you looked at it, where it's like, okay, well, the Phillies are re-signing Vince Velasquez, and he may be the fifth starter, and it's just like, what are they doing?
Vince Velasquez is going to start the year in the bullpen.
Yeah, I know. I like you said, you just sit here and you just shake your head, like, what? Yeah, what are you doing? Well, maybe they're thinking this year he could fill in a game or two in right field if Andrew McCutchen can't play.
Yeah, that was his highlight of last season, the throwing the runner out at the plate from the outfield.
Against the White Sox.
Yeah.
Which the Phillies ended up losing that game anyway.
Right. I think they ran out of players that game.
I know. I think Roman Quinn may have been pitching or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Instead of putting a starter in and trying to win a game, they gave a game away by putting Roman Quinn in the pitch.
Amazing.
It irritates me. Matt Moore, spring training statistics. He pitched 5 games, started 4. 15 innings, 14 hits, 8 runs, all 8 earned, 3 home runs, 4 walks, 14 strikeouts.
Yeah, well, there's a guy who should fit right into any major league rotation.
Yeah. And then you go Chase Anderson. His numbers were a little better. 2-1 with a 3.07 ERA, 14 innings, 8 hits, 5 runs, 2 homers, 9 walks. A little wild, 9 walks in 14 innings.
Well, when you look at the starting pitching that the Phillies have, and I've never been the biggest fan of Aaron Nola, and as I think I mentioned here before, I mean, he's a guy, too, who in big games he just seems to shrink. Now, he will pitch well during the season for a good stretch, especially in the warmer months once you get like June and July. But he's not someone who's shown that he's reliable in big game situations, just like what he did last year, where he bookended the season with a loss to start the season and a loss to end the season. And one thing we mentioned too about this pitching staff, if it's looking to be the way that it is now, and if they're going to struggle, you're going to see a lot of 3-game losing streaks for the Phillies, and you're going to see them winning 2 games here and then losing 2 and possibly winning 1 and winning 1 out of 4, and that's just not a good recipe for a team that maybe if everything clicks could make the playoffs, but at this point I'd say they're the 4th spot is probably the best the Phillies will finish in.
Yeah, there's a lot of optimism in the city about the team, thinking they can win 85, 86 games. Their over-under in Vegas is 80.5. So Vegas sees them as a 500 team.
Yeah, I like the under on that.
Me too. Me too. It's not the 2008 offense. It's not an offense that's going to blow teams out and score 10 runs. It's a 4-run a game offense.
And it's another one of those things to where, well, I guess it'll come a lot of it'll come down to manager Joe Girardi and to see how he handles this bullpen now, where I think they have better arms this year in the bullpen. But some of the guys who they had last year just had the worst years of their career or close to it. So I'm not going to be sold on the bullpen until they actually go out there and show it. I mean, Hector Neris has looked really good here in the spring. Mm-hmm. We'll see what happens once he gets into a game with 1-run lead or comes into a tie game or comes into a game where the Phillies have a few-run lead and he needs to get a 1, 2, 3 inning or a hold, and we'll see how that pans out.
Yeah, because he's most likely going to be either their 7th or 8th inning guy. And he's going to come in a 7th inning when they're ahead 4-3. And I don't feel confident he's going to hold the 1-run lead.
No, and this season can, well, I guess it can, but hopefully it's not a repeat of last year where the Phillies were the second in baseball. They were second in baseball, having a lead in a game. I guess it was 49 games last year. Yeah. They had a lead. They didn't make the playoffs last year. Nope.
So we'll go over to the rest of the bullpen. They have Alvarado, Archie Bradley, Connor Brogdon. He's a hard thrower. Sam Coonrod. Don't know a lot about him. David Hale, Brandon Kinsler, a former closer,
and
Vince Velasquez. I guess he's your long guy.
Yeah, I would guess.
Or your number 6 starter. No names there.
Good.
No names there to blow me away. It's a question mark. Alvarado I was watching him the other night. Throws 102 miles an hour, but you don't know if it's going to go behind the batter or underneath the catcher's legs. He's wild.
Yeah, he gave up 4 earned runs yesterday. So.
Yeah. So. By default. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's one of those things too with the bullpen. When you look at it now, there's a couple guys who were here last year, and of course that would be Neris, Vince Velasquez, Brogdon, and Hale. So you're starting out with 4 guys who were part of that all-time worst bullpen last year.
Yeah, the best of the worst, I guess.
Yeah, where's J.D. Hammer?
He didn't make the team.
I know.
but Archie,
that's the softest hammer I've ever seen.
He reminds me of the guy they had with the glasses. What was it? They traded him to Minnesota. Vance Worley. He reminds me of him with all his crazy antics, jumping over the chalk line when he came off the field. That's exciting for a couple of games, and then when he starts getting hit around, it's like, get this guy out of here.
Who was that guy they had? Who was that guy they had 2 years ago? The Mets had him last year, and the Phillies beat him around too. He was the guy who JT Realmuto was shaking his head because he'd always run in from the bullpen.
Oh.
We'll have to come up with.
Yeah.
Obviously, he wasn't that memorable.
That's a meme, if I remember. It's always on the Phillies Twitter, him shaking his head.
Yeah, and I guess right now you would have to think that the Phillies are going to go with Bradley as the closer.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Archie Bradley, pretty much the closer by default. I think he has the demeanor and he's put together like a closer. He used to be a starter. He's a guy that can throw 98 to 100.
Well, and see, when you talk about this group of pitchers in the bullpen, the other problem that the Phillies are going to face this year, and hopefully it's something that isn't a major problem, but I don't see starters going deep into games, so this bullpen is going to get used.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to get used a lot. You're not going to see guys throw more than 100 pitches. It's not like when we grew up and guys would throw a complete game, 160, 170 pitches. Now you hit 100, you're out. Sixth inning.
Yeah, and the Phillies have two guys at the top of their rotation who can look good for 5-6 innings, and then in that sixth or seventh inning, they get into a little bit of trouble, and here comes the bullpen, and then, like you said, it's just keep your fingers crossed. Now, hopefully this year there can be some better starts out of their top three from Nola, Wheeler, and Eflin to where they do go deeper into games, because that's going to be something that the Phillies definitely need to keep that bullpen rested. And that was just something they couldn't do last year, which I think led to a lot of the troubles that the bullpen had.
Yeah, I mean, you need nowadays. You need probably a 9 deep, 8 deep bullpen. You can't have a weak spot. That's how Tampa Bay went to the World Series last year. The bullpen.
And they had guys who came in who threw strikes and threw hard.
Yeah, they had.
There was no Cole Irvins coming in the game throwing 90 miles an hour like the Phillies were trying to run out there all the time. Tommy Hunter would come in 91, 92,
Mm-hmm.
and the next thing you know, the ball's hit over the fence or someone's chasing it around the warning track.
Right. They didn't have an offense to write home about, Tampa Bay. They had a bunch of average hitters. They won with pitching. All right, speaking of hitters, let's go to the Phillies offense. Catcher, we have, of course, JT Realmuto and Andrew Knapp, the usual suspects for the last 3 years. Infield, Alec Boehm, Didi Gregorius, Rhys Hoskins, your favorite Brad Miller, and Gene Segura. Outfield, Bryce Harper, Adam Hazley, who just made the team, Matt Joyce, Andrew McCutchen, and Roman Quinn.
And it looks like opening day, I guess it's going to be Roman Quinn in center field.
Your guess is as good as mine. They haven't said yet. I guess.
I'm trying to think. I'm not sure who's starting for Atlanta.
I was just gonna ask you that.
Yeah, I think it's a left-hander, so Roman Quinn will play.
Is it going to be what's his name, Fried?
That's what I think Atlanta's starting opening day. He's the left-hander, so Roman.
Max Fried.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's exactly right. Hazley's going to start against righties. Quinn's going to start against lefties. I wouldn't start Quinn against anybody if I was the manager, but.
Yeah, I agree with that. And when you look at that lineup, it does look like a lineup that's going to be able to produce some runs. I mean, there are a few question marks there. Of course, how healthy Andrew McCutchen can be in the leadoff spot is going to be huge for the Phillies this year.
Yeah, he's in a spring chicken. Andrew McCutchen's 34, 35. It's pretty much Bryce Harper and a bunch of. Well, Didi Gregorius is a good Major League Baseball player. I was surprised by his production last year. I'm glad they re-signed him. And then you have a second-year Alec Boehm. Who knows what he's going to bring?
He looks like he's going to be legitimate, but how many times have we thought that about players before? Namely, Scott Kingery.
Scott Kingery, 7 years, $21 million. Not that that's a ton of money, but He's not even on the team. I think 7 years they committed to a guy for 2 years. So
no, and again, he was going to be the next Chase Utley, and obviously not.
no. So after that, you got a veteran in Segura. You know what he's going to give you. You know he's going to give you 270, 10 to 15 home runs, base running errors galore.
Yeah, he'll get lazy every now and then too.
Yeah. And you got Reese. I think Reese. The team goes as Reese goes. I think he's going to be the difference between 80 wins and 85 wins. If he could give you, yeah, go ahead.
And here's the thing with that. That is an outstanding point. Mm-hmm. And from what we saw last year, what can be a problem and what really hurt the Phillies was there was a stretch there where it seemed to go on forever, even though it was a short season, where Bryce Harper was in a slump. And also, Reese Hoskins was in a slump, and that's not going to work.
No, not at all. That's what I mean. The Phillies just have too many inconsistencies to be a playoff team. There's the starting pitching's not strong enough. There's nothing to be excited about there. The lineup's Bryce Harper, and like you said, a bunch of question marks.
Yeah, and even when you look at the guys who are on the bench, I mean, there's not really that guy coming off the bench unless it's going to be Joyce. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Matt Joyce is a veteran.
Yeah, who's going to come in there and be able to knock one out of the ballpark? I mean, there's the last 2 seasons. Well, last season and half of the season before, it was Jay Bruce.
Yeah. Yeah, Bruce. Joyce is similar to Bruce. Doesn't have the power. A little more contact. He's been in the league for a long time. He's 36 years old. So they got some older players in the lineup. They're not a young team at all, except for Alec Bohm. I mean, the rest of the team's
true. And when you do look at that bench, my main question is: do they have enough bamboo in the locker room?
No. For Brad, no, I don't. I'd be surprised if Brad lasted the season on the team. To tell you the truth, I don't see him.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I think you're going to see Odubel Herrera at some point. You'll probably see Kingery. You'll probably hear Kingery's hitting the ball hitting the cover off the ball in scrimmage games down in the minors.
Yeah, and if it really goes sideways, you may have to see Mickey Moniak again.
At some point, you do. Number 1 overall pick. You have to give him a shot at some point.
Yeah, hopefully he's
September call up.
Or wherever he's playing, hopefully he looks like he's someone who they can bring up to help the team if that center field spot's going to be a problem. And that's the thing too. Putting him in center field, and also with Adam Hazley, the struggles have been defensively as well. Roman Quinn, I mean, every ball that's hit to him, he runs in on.
Yeah, he does. He breaks in.
Yeah.
I guess he figures he has the speed to go back, so they tell him to break in. I don't know.
That's a habit you break in T-ball.
Yeah. The general consensus around the city is the guy's not a major league player, but he is on this team somehow. I don't get it. He's no spring chicken either. He's 27. He'll be 28 in May. I mean, they're so loyal to these guys, the Phillies, to a fault. It's just
right. When you look up and down that roster that they have, there's a handful of guys who you can say that about, who they're loyal to a fault. Vince Velasquez, Roman Quinn,
Hector Neris,
absolutely. And I don't know. So I guess that, well, how long do you wait to see if these guys can produce? I mean, at this point, they are what they are.
Yeah, well, I look at it from a vantage point of a 10, 12-year-old kid going to the game. Who are they excited to go see? Bryce Harper, that's it.
Yeah, exactly. And a little bit there, you could throw Reese Hoskins into it.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping this year, especially with it being a full season, that something that the Phillies they kind of fell into that new style of baseball where the object is to play for that big inning with that big home run or that bases clearing double or things like that. But now, Cash, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you scratch out a run every inning, that's 9 runs, right?
It's 9 runs. Unless you're home, it's 8.
You're 8, right? That's pretty good for a game right there.
Yeah.
That's pretty good for a game. If you can manufacture 8, 9 runs or something like that, If you can do that and manufacture runs throughout the game instead of waiting for that one or two big inning, hey, a run's a run.
Yeah, they'd call us old school, I think, if they heard this. I don't know why, but baseball changed.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too where what Philadelphia fans went through, not so much last year, but the 2 years before that with Gabe Kapler and the analytics and the launch angle, and my goodness, it got so bad with that. The hitters were so screwed up. They brought Charlie Manuel back to see if he could fix somebody.
Yeah, I saw him in the dugout the other night. I said, "What's he, the manager again?" Just 2008. I mean, yeah, I watch a game with my dad. My dad saw Pete Rose, Hank Aaron. He grew up in those times, and the guy gets a leadoff hit. He's still to this day yelling, "Bunt him over, bunt him over, bunt him over." I said, "They're not going to bunt. They're not going to bunt. They play for the big inning." The sport has changed. Why can't a team go out and play fundamental baseball nowadays? I don't understand. The players make too much money to bunt. Is that the problem?
And the thing too is that always drives me crazy. And like you said, it can be about being old school. It's also that inning where you have a leadoff guy gets on, and then the guy behind him gets on. You have first and second with nobody out, and the next batter's trying to hit one out of the ballpark instead of trying to move those runners over.
Yeah, I can't stand it. The guy will pop up or strike out. There's no reason for it.
Right. Yeah, that's what'll happen.
But if he bunts them over and you have second and third with one out, that's not a big inning developing. Come on.
Or even if you have someone like JT coming up the bat, or DD, or if you have Segura up, even Alex Bohm at this point in those positions, if it's not something where they are comfortable bunting, these guys are professional hitters. Hit the ball to the right side.
Exactly, behind the runner. And then come in the dugout, get your high fives, and you advance the runners. But in their eyes, they went 0 for 1, and that's not going to help you get a better contract.
And the thing too is somehow it got into the philosophy of a lot of managers in baseball that you just don't give an out away. Well, There is such a thing as a productive out. If you hit a sac fly, that's a productive out. If you move runners and those runners eventually score, you had a productive out.
Exactly. All right, we went down the roster. Let's go on record with our predictions for the year, record-wise and place.
I'm going to say that the Phillies finish in fourth place and that they finish under 500. They will finish somewhere in the mid-70s with wins. Now, the only caveat I would add to that is the fact that they now have a Dombrowski there. And if the Phillies are playing well in the first half of the season, hovering around 500, and they look like they need a piece or two, he will go get it.
I think they're going to need more than a piece or two.
Well, that's what I said. If everything falls right and it seems that they're playing well, yeah, I agree with you. But if it's one of those things to where, hey, a piece or two is going to help this team get over the hump, I have confidence he will go get it. But like you said, more than likely you're going to be looking at this team saying they need five or six pieces. Yeah.
So I'm going to say the Mets are greatly improved. They got Lindor. They still have a great rotation with Syndergaard and DeGrom. The Braves are the Braves. They still have a dynamite offense with Freddie Freeman and Ronald Acuna.
Most underrated player in baseball, Freddie Freeman.
Yeah, a great player. Reminds me of Chipper Jones. I see Chipper Jones when I see Freddie Freeman.
And always killed the Phillies, both of them.
Yeah, they're great hitters. They're a guy. They're a guy I'd want on my team.
Yes.
So I think it's going to be a battle all year for third place in the NL East, and then it's going to be the Phillies, the Nationals, and the Marlins. Just probably 9-10 games back all year long. I say the Phillies go 78 and 84, third place.
Yeah, I can't disagree
if
with
that. If that's third place, I can't predict what the Nationals and Marlins are going to do, but I'd say that's going to be the record, 78-84. Another disappointing season.
Yeah, and the one thing that could help the Phillies this year, if they can somehow get to a point where they can beat Miami. I mean, any series against Miami, they're in jeopardy of losing all three of them. We're dropping two, no matter who their starting pitching is for those games.
Yeah, how about Miami, by the way? Sixto will not start the season with the major league team.
Wow.
He didn't get the work in preseason.
That's okay. He'll be ready to pitch against the Phillies at some point.
I'm sure he will.
Yeah, well, and if you look at that, also when you mention him, it always seems like they tie in together, him and Spencer Howard. So neither one of them starting on the major league team this year. And the other guy who the Phillies had a lot of hope for, he did get a start last year, but that was Adonis Medina, and it looks like he's not going to be a major league pitcher either.
I don't know if we could say that yet. I haven't seen enough of him. He only pitched one game.
Well, the only reason.
Oh, you mean to start the year? You mean?
Well, what I'm saying is the fact that he only came up there for one game last year when they were struggling with starting pitching, and the fact that I just don't hear that he's a guy who's close to being ready. Now, of course, that could turn around. You're correct. It could.
All right, that's our Phillies preview. Want to do the Eagles trade real quick, and then we'll do our memory.
Yeah, and I don't know if you wanted to get another break in here before we talk about what the moves that the Eagles made or not.
8:56. Think we get want to put a quick break in? We can do a quick break.
Yeah, we'll get a quick commercial break here on IE Sports Radio, and you're listening to Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris. IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Los Great, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy, awesome white tea. They're coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Ladies and gentlemen, hear me and hear me good. If you like sports, then you like the Wait a Minute Show. If you like comedy, then you like the Wait a Minute Show. If you like a different opinion coming from a different angle, then you like the Wait a Minute Show. So join me Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with your host, Jelani J.B. Bodie. And of course, my man Lopan on the WaitAMinuteShow.com. Ain't that right, Lopan?
Hey guys, it's Blake Henley, better known as H-Town Blake to some of you. Happy to announce that Bases Loaded is back in full force. We'll be bringing that high heat every Tuesday night here on IE Sports Radio. So come home, get ready, dig into that batter's box, and see if you can chase that high heat, baby. So we'll be coming to you live with all the stats, all the rundowns, all the division rivalries, and every team that's going to make the playoff push to get to that one and only October and get to the pinnacle of what baseball is, to hoist that Commissioner's Trophy when it's all said and done.
And welcome back, everyone, to Philly Sports Talk here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Another great show tonight. We're an hour in. We've talked Sixers. We've talked NCAA for a little bit. We talked Phillies. And we'll finish up with Eagles, a little quick NASCAR, and our Philly sports memory.
Hey, don't forget we did have the Flyers Minute.
I'm sorry, our Flyers Minute. I always forget for some reason.
Yes, on to our Philadelphia Eagles.
Yes. They once again managed to disappoint us again this week. They made a trade. We've dedicated our last 3 episodes to who they're going to pick at number 6, and it turns out they're not going to pick at number 6 because the Eagles traded pick number 6 and number 156 overall to the Miami Dolphins in exchange for the number 12 pick this year, the number 123 pick this year, and next year's 2022 first-round pick. So what that means is the Eagles could have 3 first-round picks next year.
Yeah, and I see that that's what they're looking at and thinking to the fact that the team is not going to be very good this year. I just don't agree with trading out of number 6. I just think a pick that high, you really can't miss with it. And the way this team has been drafted lately, I think they can miss at 12. Even though most of the drafts that I've seen, the mock drafts that I looked at, it seems like Devontae Smith, the wide receiver, will be there at 12. Now,
really?
Will the Eagles take him or not? I don't know. The way they've gone at 12, they might take Malik Willis from Liberty, the quarterback. Who knows?
I heard they were looking at a wide receiver out of Navy. No. Army. I'm sorry.
Army?
Yeah. He caught 6 passes last year for 50 yards. But anyways, we kid, but now even they for the second you might get excited and say, yeah, next year they could have a top 5 pick. They could have the pick for Carson Wentz, maybe a Colts pick in the 20s, maybe a Miami pick in the teens. They won't. They'll do something. They'll trade those picks. They'll package them in a deal and probably move up to number 2 and pick an offensive lineman. Yeah, that's what they do. The Eagles, Howie Roseman's always the smartest man in the room. That's the problem. And they won't fire him.
No, and yeah, it seems like that guy has a job for life. It's like he's like a Supreme Court justice. He's been appointed for life. And you're right. It just, well, here's a question though that came to my mind when I was thinking about this and looking over this trade. Why did they tank that last game last year?
To get the number 6 pick.
They put in the backup quarterback late in the game, and it was like, they're just trying to stay at that number 6 spot. And now, obviously, like we said, they've got themselves a few more draft picks and could have a bunch of picks in the first round next year. But yeah, as fans, are we going to sit there week 4 when the teams are getting beat 31-0 and they've lost the first 3 games and looking at 0-4, we're going to think, well, those draft picks are going to be nice come April.
Right. And they pissed off the Giants too in that game.
Yes, they did.
The Giants were going for the division and they let the Redskins beat them. So Redskins made the playoffs and the Giants didn't.
Yeah, and it's nice that the NFL now has moved to a 17-game schedule, so that's one more week of suffering for us Eagles fans.
One fewer preseason game. Now they didn't add a bye week, which I thought they would do, and everybody thought they would do. They give them an extra week of rest. They didn't add that. Maybe when they go to the 18-game schedule, they'll add another bye week.
I think ultimately that's what they want to go to. And I know this year they've expanded the rosters. I guess they can now have 58 players on the roster on game day, which gives them an extra 3. But it's also another thing, too, when you look at it from a player's standpoint. I mean, obviously they're professional athletes. Obviously they're getting paid extremely well. And injuries do happen, and the more games and the more that they're out there, the more teams can get injured, and all that does is then water down some of those games late in the season.
Right. They say an NFL team averages 5 injuries per game, so you're gonna add 1 game, that's 5, and then you're gonna add another game. 10 extra injuries per season. You're gonna go into the playoffs battered.
Yeah, That's a good point that will happen, but it's also one of those things too. When you get down to the last couple weeks of the season, you have a team who's right there, trying to make the playoffs or trying to secure a playoff spot, and you're going out there playing a team that's had these injuries and it's not a full team. It can give certain teams an advantage much more than when it was only a 16-game schedule.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's going to be a challenge for everyone. The players ultimately, I think, will have to get more money playing 2 extra games, and the revenue is going to be there too with the extra. They're going with the streaming. The NFL is changing TV wise. They're going to a lot of different what's the word, media outlets.
And also what I think too is they're trying to expand as much as they can globally, and it looks like every team I think has been now told that within the next, I don't know how many seasons it is. It's either 6 or 8 seasons. They will play one game in London. Every team will.
It's not just London, Mexico also. Not each
Correct.
team, but
That's
I mean,
right.
they said every team's going to play an international game, and it's probably not far fetched that there'll be a team in London or a team in Mexico City at some point.
Yeah, and I think the NFL would love to have that happen, and I think with them the sooner the better.
Sure, they want the global merchandise sales. They'd be through the roof if London got an NFL football team.
Yeah, well, you never know. Coming up next season in the Eagles division will be the Shanghai Sharks.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be.
Shanghai Sharks. But all they would be is American players. They wouldn't be players from London, of course. It'd be American players playing on it, like the Toronto Raptors. They're not a Canadian basketball team. They're just an American team playing in Canada.
With an Argentina, with a guy from Argentina who's the field goal kicker.
Oh, yeah, that's possible.
Yeah, that's possible. I just don't like what the Eagles did.
Me either.
I get my head around why they did it, but I just think trading that pick is foolish. And
well, it seems like they like you said earlier, they wanted to move up and get a quarterback at 3, and it's like that didn't happen, so they said forget it. We'll just move down. I mean.
Yeah, that was some of the reports and the rumors. I don't know. I guess when we talked about this earlier, we don't have like a solid source that said they were trying to move up there to the 3 spot. But didn't they say like 2 weeks ago Jalen Hurts is the guy?
Yeah, they said Jalen Hurts was the guy, and then they let it get out. They wanted Zach Wilson. How do you let that get out? Shouldn't that be kept in the room?
Well, and number one, yes, it should be kept in the room. But number two, how do you even, as an organization, do that? I mean, Jalen Hurts has only played 4 games, and the 4 games that he played, let's be honest, he played with a team that was awful.
Right, no offensive line, no wide receivers.
You don't know what Jalen Hurts is right now and what Jalen Hurts can be.
No idea. And unless they think they have an idea from practice, that's about all they saw him in, and a little bit of time on the field. He's a second-round pick. You gave up your franchise quarterback for him. You're just going to throw him away?
Well, this team is not shocking.
No.
What all that they've done over the years, like you said, with giving up, having to get rid of Carson Wentz and take that huge cap hit. I mean, I don't know. I guess the offensive line looks like it's going to be better this year. But other than that, I mean, they will have a weapon or two at running back, but who's he going to throw the ball to?
Right, and that's why the draft was a can't miss draft at wide receiver at the 6th spot. You were going to get Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, or Jalen Waddle, and you throw it away. I'll be shocked if Smith's there at 12.
Yeah, I will too. I was just surprised in the couple drafts that I looked up. I think the last one I saw was the CBS Sports mock draft that did have him there at 12. But
even Kyle Pitts at 6 would have been a great pick.
Exactly. We talked about that last week, and we thought that would be an outstanding guy for them to take. It'll be interesting if things stay the way that they are. The Cowboys pick 10, the Giants pick 11, and the Eagles pick 12.
Like you said, I don't think Dallas is going to let Devontae Smith go by. Jerry Jones loves his skilled players. He loves his skill position players.
Well, and he also likes to take players that would be potential picks for teams in the division as well.
Which isn't a bad way to be.
No, it's not. I mean, last year in the draft, I mean, the Eagles. A lot of people were hoping the Eagles could move up a spot or two, or even more than that, and take CeeDee Lamb.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing was, I mean, Dallas. Once Dallas realized that they were picking in front of the Eagles, they did take CeeDee Lamb. And the shocking thing was the Eagles weren't going to take CeeDee Lamb anyway.
I know.
Taking Jalen Reagor, which was like, oh my goodness.
And we'll watch Justin Jefferson's whole career and say we should have had him.
Yeah, that's another one that's not going to sit. That's not going to sit well. But maybe this year at 12, they're going to get an outstanding receiver at 12, and him and Jalen Hurts are going to be a great combination. And the Eagles are going to win 5 games instead of 4 this year.
Wow. I'd have to sign up for season tickets. Gonzaga, with 3 minutes to go, leads USC 78-58. They will advance to the Final Four. Sixers are about to start. This weekend, that wraps up our Eagles coverage, by the way. This weekend, we watched NASCAR on the dirt. First time in 50 years.
Yeah, yesterday because of the rain on Sunday, but it was interesting.
To say the least. It was interesting. I didn't anticipate the pit stops taking so long. I had no idea that's how they were going to work it. They basically just gave them 3 minutes to clean the car, put the car through a car wash. What was the reason for the manual tire changers though? Why were they doing it like that?
I do not know.
I don't know.
I don't know why they had to do that. I don't know if it was a thing because there was some debris from the track, or if it was just an easier way of lifting the car. But it was definitely, like you said, when they had those pit stops, it was definitely not what you were used to seeing.
Yeah, they were putting the tires on with the old-fashioned lug wrenches.
Yeah.
And it had to be something about a fire, because they weren't allowed to fuel the car until the tires were put on.
Yeah, you might be right. It could have been a safety protocol as well for what they were doing. Yeah, and it was an interesting race. I did not see a good bit of the race. I mean, I caught bits and pieces of it. I watched some of the highlights of it, and I was following along on my phone as it was going on, and it was another one of those things where, boy, Denny Hamlin looks really good, but he wasn't the guy who came out with the victory. I only bring him up because that's my favorite driver, and it was just like he's been the most consistent this year.
Yeah.
It's just one of these races I think he's going to break through. I thought that was possible yesterday, but Joey Logano just surprised everyone.
Yeah, he came in at 33-1 with a victory. It's funny watching the pit stops take three minutes. I had watched the IndyCar the first race of the season on Sunday morning. The pit stops there are 3 seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
They have one guy for each tire. One guy pulls the tire off, the other guy puts the tire on, the car's out of there. They don't even fuel the cars. They go with the same fuel the entire race.
It's amazing how they do that, and you never see someone drive off and the tire falls off.
Never.
Either.
I was thinking the same thing. I said they never make a mistake. The tire just must insert and lock in place.
The only time you see a tire come into play on pit road, especially in NASCAR, it's not with the fact that it's coming off a car. It's when they're trying to transport it onto the car. Somebody will lose grip of it or something, and then it'll bounce around. But no, once those tires are put on, they're secure.
Yeah, NASCAR you'll get a loose lug nut a lot of times. They actually record the pit stops now, and they go back and they watch this to make sure they hit them all. Because the drivers might feel a vibration, which actually isn't a loose lug nut, but just some other vibrations. They check the film. Yeah, it's pretty cool. They have a lot of advancements that they still don't have speedometers. My thing that I can't stand the most, that there's no speedometer.
Yeah, the penalty on pit road.
Yeah, the penalty on pit road. I can't stand it.
For going 35.2 miles per hour.
Yep.
And I guess NASCAR's off this week, right? With it being Easter Sunday, right?
Yes, they are.
Yeah. So The final thing that we're going to talk about here was the new segment that we added in, and it's just one of those things that Cash and I had talked about, seeing how we have grown up Philadelphia sports fans, and when we first kind of got together, it was always, hey, do you remember when this happened, or where were you when this happened, or I was at this game, and all this, and so we'll just throw out a memory here and there and discuss it, and hopefully some people out there listening will remember some of the stuff too. And the first memory that we're going to throw out, and this is one, and Cass and I hadn't talked about this, but the Phillies are opening up this season with the Atlanta Braves, and the memory that came to mind for me is October 6, 1993, National League Championship Series, Game 1.
I'm smiling. Game 1. Okay,
Game 1.
I was smiling already because I thought you were going to say game 6 or.
No, I thought about Game 6, but what came to mind off the top of my head was Game 1, the game that was won by Kim Baptiste.
Well, I'm still smiling because I was there at the game.
You were at that one? Cool.
I was there. I have the ticket stub still.
That was one of those games because I remember where I was watching it. I was in my dorm room in college at the time watching it, and it was one of those things where, as a Phillies fan that season, when Mitch Williams came into a game, as we can all remember seeing in the playoffs, Curt Schilling would have a towel over his head, and that was another one of those games where he did end up blowing the save, but it was Kim Baptiste's error that opened the door for Atlanta to tie that game, and it was just funny when it went back to it, and he actually got a chance to knock in the winning run after John Kruk out on second base, and he hit a line drive past the third baseman down to the left field corner, and
yep. I was
carried off the field.
We didn't rehearse this, so this is all just true memories coming off. I was sitting in left field, third base line, probably in the first. I think I was in the first row, right over the the 400 level, the one that looks over the field, and I saw the ball come down the line. It was just that was the loudest I ever heard the vet at that time. It was amazing just being there, and I had never seen the Phillies in a National League Championship Series before, and 83 was the last time. I was only 5 years old, so.
Yeah, 83 when they got. I guess in that championship series, if I remember correctly, in '83 they beat the Dodgers, and then they lost. And then they lost 4 games to 1 to Baltimore in the World Series.
Baltimore. Earl Weaver, manager.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to remember. I think Cal Ripken caught the final out.
Wow, his rookie season.
Yeah, going all the way back that far. Yeah, that was just one of those things that had popped up. I had been looking, which is really cool on YouTube when you can go back and look at different highlights of different things, and you go back and watch the whole game on YouTube if need be. But yeah, it was just one of those things to where the Phillies and the Braves just with them coming up here opening day, that series popped up into my mind, and that was during that stretch too, where the Braves, as a Phillies fan, you just hated the Braves because that was right in that era where they had the potential to have a dynasty, which that didn't pan out. They only won the one World Series over Cleveland, but it was just one of those. It was just one of those things to where they were always the best team in the division, which was the West.
Exactly.
In the West at the time.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. What were they doing? They were still in the West, and the Phillies. It was only the 2 division winners played each other. That might have been the last season of that. Yeah,
because the next season was the one where there was the strike. And that's when Montreal had the huge lead when the strike hit. It looked like Montreal had the best team in baseball that year.
With Larry Walker and Randy Johnson was on that team, maybe. Randy Johnson. Andres Galarraga.
Pedro Martinez, right?
Pedro, sure. They were way ahead. They had like a double-digit lead, and then he went to the strike. But back to your game. Curt Schilling started the game, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Curt Schilling started, and like you said, Mitch Williams. Schilling pitched a hell of a game. I'd say he probably pitched like 7-8 innings and.
Yeah, he was really good in that series, and he was really good in the series following that against Toronto.
He's a Hall of Famer in my book. Kurt.
Yeah, yeah. There's no. I understand that it had to do with some politics and everything, but yeah, there's no reason why Kurt Schilling, with what he accomplished in his career, why he wouldn't be an easy first ballot Hall of Famer.
Right. And that series that you're talking, the Phillies were on paper totally outmatched. You had a Atlanta team with Fred McGriff and David Justice, Terry Pendleton, Ron Gant. I think Jeff Blauser was a shortstop. Otis Nixon.
Mm-hmm. And of course they had their starting pitching with Maddox, Glavine, and Smoltz.
Yeah, and you know who started that game?
I think Glavine started the game.
Steve Avery.
Oh, Steve Avery started game 1. Wow.
Because I think if I remember, the Braves were.
The Braves had to make a huge comeback in the division to take over the Giants. They had to win like 9 out of 10.
Yeah, we thought we were going to play the Giants that year, and ended up not being the Giants. So that's why they used up all their pitchers in the last series, and they had to go with Avery in the first game.
I knew it wasn't. I knew it wasn't either Maddox or Smoltz. I wasn't sure if Glavine was there, but Steve Avery. Wow. Yeah, and the thing too about that series, it was like, okay, the Phillies got that great walk-off win in game 1, and then what was everybody deflated after game 2?
Yeah, they lost 14-3 in game 2 the next night.
And it's like, wow. And Tommy Green didn't do too well, but he bounced back in game 6.
Sure did. They won game 6, October 13th, 1993, on a Mitch Williams striking out Bill Pecota to end the game.
Yeah, Mitch Williams with the 1-2-3 inning and the big hug from Darren Dalton at the end. Just growing up as Phillies fans, but like you said, it had been 10 years earlier. But from 80, it seemed like from 83 to 93, the Phillies. If you wanted to see the Phillies as a first place team, you had to read the paper upside down because they were always in last.
Exactly.
And it just seemed like that team had a bunch of guys with a bunch of personalities that stuck out and just kind of fit the city, and they gave them something special that year. Yeah, because I remember too when we talk about that series in Game 5 that it was one where Mitch Williams blew that save in that game as well, and then that game went extra innings, and that's the one where
Lenny Dykstra.
Yep, the home run to center field off Mark Wohlers. Yep. I guess that was the 10th inning, and then the old man Larry Anderson came in for the save.
Yeah, he did, and then that was the night that about 10,000 fans met the Phillies at the airport coming back from Atlanta.
Yeah, because they had to win one of 2 now at home, and they were able to do it. They were able to do it in Game 6. Yeah, and I just remember it's still great to go back and watch that inning with Larry Anderson, because the last 2 outs he strikes out Blauser, and then he gets Ron Gant on a called third strike. The ball was a foot outside, but it doesn't matter.
I know. It was the umpire, Eric Gregg.
It wasn't Eric Gregg, but if you go back and look at that pitch, it was outside, but it doesn't matter.
I remember Bobby Cox yelling at the umpire as he left the field.
Oh my goodness! He was one of my Bobby Cox was always one of my favorite managers to just hate, because he was on a manager. I mean, he was on players, he was on umpires. He always had. He was
on his wife.
Yeah, he did have a little bit of a problem there, but
he got away with that, no problem, huh?
Well, his side of the story was it was her fault, not his.
Yeah.
but Bobby Cox, I mean, he got ejected every other game, didn't he?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and then
when they were losing,
he took that out on his poor wife. You're right.
Nowadays, he'd be thrown out of baseball.
Well, you would think.
Yeah. Well, I'm not, deservingly, but back then it was, Brett Myers, Bobby Cox, they got away with it. But now Odubel Herrera is never going to play again, probably. Not for the Phillies.
Well, yeah, that's one of those things we touched on that a couple weeks ago about Odubel Herrera. I mean, I think you brought the point up. Well, if he was a 320 hitter with and averaging 35 home runs a year, it might be a little bit different.
Sure.
It shouldn't be.
Right.
It shouldn't be, but it's one of those things too, where the Phillies bringing him back, it was one of those things where it just spoke loudly to their inability to fill that hole in center field that they needed. I mean, obviously they owed him $10 million, so
right. They still have to pay him the $10 million.
Yeah, they're going to pay him, and they're going to pay him anyway. But it was one of those things to where, if given that situation and given him as the player he is, that just screamed, there's a problem in center field.
Sure. You know how many games the Braves won that season? 104.
Right. Hey, the Phillies were only in the mid-90s, right?
97, 65.
97? Okay, yeah. And it seemed like the Braves won 14 and 15 to end the season. I don't know if that's correct, but they won a lot to end the season, and the Giants went in the tank.
Yep, I do remember that. The Giants just tanking down the stretch. We were surprised that they played the Braves. And that might have. Wait, had the Braves already won a bunch of divisions at that point?
Yeah, because they were in the Braves. The Braves were in the World Series. That's who Toronto beat in '92.
Right.
Yeah. So the Braves are already established as. Wait, because. Yeah, the Braves, they were in it in '91 too against Minnesota. So they had been in back-to-back World Series.
Yeah, they lost to Minnesota. Or was that Kirby Puckett?
And well, he sent it to Game 7 and Game 6. I remember that, and then in Game 7,
Jack Morris.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
I was during that series. I was watching that with a bunch of Braves fans when I was in college, and I just remember Game 6 they brought in Charlie Leibrandt, and they all said, "It's over. It's over. He's going to lose it."
Charlie Leibrandt. Didn't the Phillies draft his son?
I'm not sure. Probably.
I think they did.
I know they drafted Drabek's son, and he was traded, but
Kyle, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brandon Leibrandt. He's a picture of him in a Phillies uniform. He's currently a free agent. Another guy that didn't make it.
Wow. The Phillies didn't draft him number 1 overall, did they? I'm kidding. I know they didn't.
I don't know where they drafted him. I know it wasn't number 1. Let me see. Let's see. Brandon Leibrandt.
Well, I think everyone can tell we could have our own separate show, and we could call it just Philadelphia Sports Memories with Cash and Chris.
Yeah, there sure is a lot of them. Yeah, and we love to just sit here and talk about them. It's it's our childhood, we grew up sports fans. It's just, I don't know how many times I went to the Jersey Shore during the summer, and you didn't have cable. You'd be staying in a hotel or at your grandparents' house. There was old dial TV. You turned to black and white dial TV, and you didn't have the Phillies. The Phillies were on Prism back then. So I don't know how many times I went to sleep at night listening to the Phillies playing on the West Coast against the Dodgers on my little Sony Walkman, listening to Harry Callis and Richie Ashburn.
Well, you're exactly right, and we didn't have Prism either, but my grandparents did, and also some relatives of mine who lived close had Prism, and I'd go there and watch some of the games. It would be the Phillies, the Flyers, and the Sixers were on Prism back then.
Yeah. And I had Prism at home, but I didn't have it at the Shore.
Right.
I actually would wake up at the Shore, walk to the corner, buy a newspaper to see if the Phillies won the night before.
World's changed, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. You'd fall asleep listening to the game, and yet you'd wake up, you'd have no idea if they won or not.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And then sometimes it didn't make the paper. You had to buy the paper the next day because it was too late for press.
Well, yeah, and it was like one of those things too, where we had talked the other week. I guess it was before we got this show put together, and we were talking about the Sixers and the NBA Finals and stuff. Where some of those games you get them in this area on tape delay.
Yeah, they say Michael Jordan's the player that stopped tape delay.
Right, exactly right.
Which is crazy. The 1980 Finals or.
83, I think, with Moses and them when they were playing out with the Lakers on the West Coast.
Yeah, you had to watch it on tape delay. It's amazing. I first saw that when they were showing the Portland series. I think it was Bill Walton talking, and he said the same thing. He's like, you'd have no clue what happened in the game. A game was played in the afternoon. You were watching it at night. I don't know why. I don't understand why they couldn't broadcast live.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it was a technology thing or if it just was a thing because of the fact of the time difference or not. But we definitely remember those days.
Maybe it had something to do with like putting the players' stats on the screen when they were at the foul line. Maybe they had to do that after. I don't know. But wait. So going back to the mid '70s and if you were an NBA fan, you never saw a game live, even during the regular season, or was that just the playoffs?
Yeah, I'm not sure how they did that. I mean, I guess you would see the games live if your team was playing at home. I'm assuming you would, but maybe some of those games where your team was in a different time zone, you'd have to get it on tape delay.
Yeah, I mean, I know baseball was always live because you hear kids used to rush home from school and watch the World Series. The World Series was always shown during the day.
Right.
So I know that wasn't tape delay. But basketball, for some reason, was.
Yeah, it was just different. I mean, I'm a little bit older than you, but I remember when TV actually went off. When stations just they played the national anthem and that was it.
Yeah, like 2:00 in the morning, right?
2:00 in the morning. Yep. From like 2 to 8, it was white and black snow.
Yeah, they show a replay of the news from 11 o'clock, and that's it.
That's it.
That's funny. I'm looking at Charlie Liebrandt's stats for the Phillies. In 2018, he was actually 4-1 with a 1.42 ERA in 20 games. Then you know what happened next. Tommy John surgery, missed the remainder of the 2018 and 2019 season. And they released him on May 29th, 2020. I mean,
that Tommy John surgery doesn't work out too well for players in Philadelphia.
Never.
It seems to have worked out okay for some other players, other places, but not in Philadelphia.
Yeah, they come back throwing harder.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we are way over our hour time slot.
We need to thank IE Sports Radio for giving us the ability to run over, and at some point I know there might be a show following us, and we'll have to be more condensed with this. But hopefully the last segment is one that some people who tune in can have some fun with and have some good memories, and hopefully we can add to that going forward with some different memories, whether positive or negative.
Yeah, I'll have all week to put one together.
Yep.
All right, once again, thanks everybody for listening. I'm Bobby Cash.
I'm Chris Amos, and we are thankful that you guys tuned in right here on IE Sports Radio. You have listened to Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and we will see you guys next week.
Have a good night.